Hello.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Starbucks. I am your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me this glorious Tuesday morning, we are ahead of time. Jim Rosati. Jim, it's not a Thursday. We didn't skip Wednesday and have to delay this to Thursday. Here we are on a Tuesday morning with Starbucks.
Tuesday morning, bright and early, fresh off of we had some news to talk about, so we had to hop on, didn't we?
There's definitely some news to talk about. I know the format of the show is pretty much, we wake up tired as hell. I guess
Basically.
the days that we do actually wake up to do it, right? And then we go back and forth a little bit. How was your week and this and that? I don't know. I feel like I just want to get right into this. I feel like we have a lot to talk about. I'm also packed. Little peek behind the curtain. I'm also packed on my way to Key West, like right after the show. We weren't even sure if we were going to have a show this week. I'm going to be out of town all week. Yes, I'm going to be in Key West, everybody. Not to rub it in. But we got a lot to talk about, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, big trade yesterday. So, yeah, let's kind of hop right into it.
All right. So I guess like you said, let's just go into it. Here I am also in the midst of packing and ordering dinner. I see an alert on my phone. Jeff Passan, right? The Passan bomb dropped. A trade with the Pirates with Joe Musgrove. That in itself, not shocked, right? I mean, there was like no smoke at all. There was no there's talks heating up, right? It just out of nowhere, a trade happened with San Diego Padres. So again, as mentioned, the Musgrove thing, not so shocked. The Padres aspect of it. Are you kidding me? Like the San Diego Padres who made the deal with, everything was lining up with like the Angels, possibly the Yankees, maybe Toronto. Out of nowhere comes the San Diego Padres. Like they don't have enough pitching.
Yeah, kind of crazy that they would even be in the market for Musgrove. But here we are. They're now the owners of Joe Musgrove, along with a lot of other pitchers. And I will say this out of the Padres, they were clearly a good match prospect-wise because of the depth that they have in their organization.
Right.
So, yeah, it all in all, it seemed pretty good. And we'll dissect kind of the return, but it seems like a pretty fair trade. There's definitely a headliner of the deal. And then some other guys that, who knows what happens to them.
Gotcha. So let's maybe talk, like I said, first reaction, this trade happens. And like you said, the first thing we saw was Hudson Head. I can't say that we knew for sure that was going to be the headline, but the first thing that came out was Hudson Head is going back to the Padres. So with that being said, what was your take and thoughts right away?
So at first I was like, Hudson Head is a good prospect, ton of upside, young, right? I figured, if you could have done this trade two ways, right? You could have gone like with two players like Hudson Head, or you could have gone like the way that the Pirates did, where they went with Hudson Head and then a group of four other guys. But this is exactly kind of what I've kind of said this whole time, that the return for Musgrove is probably going to be pretty similar to what we saw in the Starling Marte trade. Where Marte was traded for, two prospects that were not in the top 100, but they were close. They were knocking on the door. And that's what you have with Hudson Head. So Hudson Head not in a top 100 list, but knocking on the door. I wouldn't be surprised to see him on top 100 lists, maybe when mid-season comes and some people graduate. But he's a talented bat. I think that's, looking at him now, you got to think he slates into, if not the top outfield prospect in the Pirates organization, maybe the second best. Him and Swaggerty are kind of there.
Okay, and that's fair. So like my first thought too coming out, and I'm going to be totally honest. Like I'm not as well versed into the Padres system. Like I know a lot of the top end people and stuff out, and I'm aware of it, and definitely some people in there. And as mentioned, what's funny is Baseball America just released their top 100 yesterday. So I did put out there the Pirate stuff, and I was like, and I feel obligated to, like I had to put out the Padres stuff because, we're the honorary San Diego Padres podcast now also, right, Jim? Right. I had to put them out there, which they had. Like if you want to count the signing of Kim this year, right, then they have 7 people in their top 100 list. Head didn't make that list. Okay, so I did know Head was not in that top 100 because I tweeted out the Padres and I saw everyone there. So I guess like my initial thing with Head was, oh boy, it's probably the best way to put it. Oh boy, okay. When I saw that, because yes, I understand there's definitely a lot of people that overvalue Joe Musgrove. And it just is what it is. Like I get when you put the fan glasses on, you see your players all the time. Like I believe there's something in Joe Musgrove, and I do. I've been saying like I think there's definitely something behind the curtains with Joe Musgrove. He's a good pitcher, and he showed it this year. And definitely the past few starts. But there's also teams on the other end that they're going to knock him down. Think about when they can go to arbitration. Your own team knocks you down, right? Because they want to pay you. That's what other teams are doing in these trade process, right? Well, he's not really that good, guys. Come on, Ben. He's not that good. Look at his ERA. Look at all this, right? So I think there's definitely overvaluation on a lot of people from the Pirates side, but I do believe he was good. He could net a return. And what I think really helped him was this year's market, just with things happening. So when I saw Head as the return, I felt like, I hope he's not the headliner. I would rather see someone more like Ryan Weathers would be perfect. He did slide into the top 100 this year, albeit at the lower end, but his velocity ticked up. He was a pretty decent prospect. Daddy's a former major leaguer. I like Weathers. I know you kind of know I like Weathers behind the scenes a little bit as well.
Right.
But I felt like something less risky, more established for Joe Musgrove. So that's how I felt with Head, because to me, everything that you said is true. But I also feel on the other side, he comes with a lot of risk.
Yeah, and all these guys do, actually. So like none of these guys really are this, quote unquote established. Like none of them, David Bednar, is a major leaguer.
Mm-hmm.
He's pitched in the majors parts of the last 2 years in the bullpen. So I think he's someone that you can expect to compete for a bullpen job this year. But the other guys in the trade, one hasn't even played a game in minor league baseball yet. Right. And that's Drake Fellows. So who knows really anything about him? And then you got Hudson Head, who has played rookie ball. Omar Cruz hasn't pitched above A ball. Andy Rodriguez hasn't played above rookie ball. So yeah, I mean these are young guys. They're stock in the system with young guys who they hope will eventually develop. You look at Omar Cruz's numbers in the minors, and they look very good. So we'll see there. He is 21. It's about to be 22. And hasn't pitched above A ball, but that's going to be the case for a lot of people this year because there was no minors last year.
Right. And that's one thing I want to keep in perspective as well. I mean, that lost season hurts a lot of things because, especially I think for us, because we're going to talk and dive and, evaluate these things that happens, the trade and such, but we don't get to see what happened last year when some of these players were in, like their camps. Like a great example of that is, as we mentioned with the top 100s, I guess maybe it's our chance to dabble into it a bit. Shane Baz went way up on lists. Like BA had him as a number 58 prospect in baseball now.
You mean Quinn Priester?
What did I say?
He said Shane Baz. I will say this: they're both
Shane Baz did not make the list.
Former Pirates first rounders with long blonde hair.
There you go.
It's easy to get them confused.
In back-to-back years, I believe, as well. So yeah, I mean, it's an easy mistake on my part. So Quinn Priester went up there, number 58 prospect in baseball by BA. And right, like you would say, well, what changed? He didn't have a season. And it was because there's been a lot of talk behind, the curtains, a lot of talk that we can't see. There was no season, but, evaluators and such were just praising him in Altoona this year. So a lot of the stuff could have been done with these guys that we don't get to see it. We just see rookie ball in 2019. So I understand that fact, and I just want to preference that, like, to be fair, right? But that's still where I'm at. Like, that's what kind of bothers me a bit with this trade was, albeit he's not going to get you the number 20 prospect in baseball. Joe Musgrove was the chip this year. And this is such a risky trade. And it's like, if I'm going to be honest with myself, okay, I can't be critical of the Clevenger trade. I can't be critical of the Blake Snell trade, right? I can't be critical of the Yu Darvish trade and then come out here and tell you I love this trade. I don't love this trade. It's fair return in the sense of when you add up all these pieces, like that's value for Joe Musgrove. And like people say, I mean, it's true. Like the Pirates got 5 players for Joe Musgrove. 4 of them prospects. I guess 3 of them prospects, 1 major leaguer, and then we got to add in Lucchesi.
Yeah, well, they still got 5 people.
Yeah.
So
3 prospects, right? And then again, like
4 prospects.
You can't really say he's a prospect. Like he's pitched the majors. I'm counting him out. Technically, yes, but I'm counting him out. He's a major leaguer at this point in time.
Yeah,
right.
Lucchesi is not a prospect. He's got over 2 years of service time.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, again, technically speaking, it's 4, but I want to say it's 3 prospects and 2 major leaguers. Because I'm calling.
You're missing Drake Fellows. So 4 prospects.
Okay.
1 major leaguer in Bednar. And then, out of the blue, the Mets come rolling in as the surprise 3rd team. And, they acquired Joey Lucchesi. So.
Right. So, again, to me, there's a lot of risk in this when this guy was your chip. I don't hate the return, right? But, again, it's very risky. But, again, it comes with high reward. Like, if Head hits, man, we're gonna have fun with this player for a lot of years. If Head hits, that's a potential 5-tool player, right? 4-tool, almost like for sure. If the power does develop, he could turn into a 5-tool outfielder, center fielder. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think, I think that's kind of where our differences are on this trade. Is I am a pretty big Hudson Head fan.
Well, I don't have his autographed baseball card, Jim. So
that's true. So, no, I think But as you mentioned, it is risky. Like, again, none of these guys are, established as impact talented players. But again, going back to the Marte trade, I kind of keep wanting to go back to that.
Sure.
I feel like this is very similar to that, and that, hey, let's acquire some young guys with talent and see what happens. And Hudson Head is one of those young guys that does have some pedigree. So it's not like Hudson Head is just coming out of the blue. He's a 3rd round draft pick. He was signed for $3 million. So the Padres obviously liked what they saw in him. One of those guys who, was going to go to college, ended up signing a huge overslot deal to sign with the Padres. So the Padres liked what they saw in Hudson Head to give him $3 million, highest signing bonus ever for a 3rd round pick. So there's something there. I think that's kind of that is definitely the centerpiece here. And if Hudson Head, I think he's someone who's kind of right on outside that top 100 list right now. Like if you were to extend it to maybe a top 120 to 125, he's in there. So it's a very similar situation to that Marte trade where, Peguero and Malone were kind of knocking on the door there.
Mm-hmm.
The difference now, just instead of having just 2 people, they've got 4. Those 4 aren't necessarily knocking on the door of any top 100 list, but they're all guys, and they seem to have some talent. And they're coming from a good organization. So right. I agree with you. Like I'm not overwhelmed or astounded by this trade. Like I'm not looking at this trade and saying, "Oh my God, we won this deal." I think it's a fair trade on both sides. Like I think the Padres have to be happy with it. They got Joe Musgrove and didn't have to give up any of their top 7 prospects, right? And then I think the Pirates kind of have to be happy too. I really don't know if they could have gotten a better package than this, especially from the teams that were rumored. Like the Blue Jays couldn't have put anything together close to this. The Yankees probably couldn't have put anything together close to this. So I think just kind of out of the teams that were out there,
mm-hmm.
this is probably the best that you could have hoped for.
And that's, I think, very fair. And I guess what I'm getting at is, like you might have got a better player in this deal if you went with, say, the Angels, maybe the Blue Jays and the Yankees and such, right? But I think as an entire package, like, yeah, you're right. Like the Yankees can't put together this. They would deplete their farm, and I don't think they're ready to do that. Like Toronto, the same. Right, the Angels really don't have much of a farm. Like they have a few top end guys, and then it drops off pretty steadily.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like I think there could have been a better player, a 1-for-1. If you compared like Head to maybe what the Yankees could have offered and such, like I think that could have been better. But right, so the Yankees can say, well, hey, this guy's more of a sure shot. Take it or leave it, and you get some of the Padres like this and say, well, Head might not be a sure shot, but he's got potential. But here's a lot of other pieces too. So I can see where Cherington would say, like, yeah, let's go ahead and bite on this deal. I mean, listen, it's no shock. We all know Joe Musgrove's been out there. These talks, I'm sure, have been going on for months, right? So it's not as if Cherington just got this offer today and was like, oh, let's jump on and take it. I mean, he's been evaluating this scene, I'm sure, for a while, and he made the decision to go with this. So I can get that. I guess just where I'm at, man, is so again, like we talked about the Clevenger deal, and my thing with the Clevenger deal was just there's a lot of like Cole vibes to it, right? And then the Blake Snell comes out, and like all these deals the Padres did, not one of them hurt, like not one. The Blake Snell one, I guess, is the closest to it with Patino, but to get Blake Snell,
you get Blake Snell,
right? So. It's like not one trade do I feel like Preller made and just like bit his, I don't want to do this, but it was like hell yeah, like Preller seriously just bullied the MLB since last year at the deadline. He's been bullying the MLB. I don't get this. I'm just like completely shocked, and it's just the fact that how great Preller has been in like this past, well, for the most of the rebuild, but especially like this past 7 months. It's been outstanding what he has done. the players he has acquired and the players he had to give up to get them. And I'm going to play some of this. This is how I feel about this trade.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Yeah, I mean, you've now.
But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
It's like all of MLB has seriously left AJ Preller off the hook. They know who they are. He's come in, and it's like every team has returned Preller's phone call. It's like, all right, let's make a deal. And he's like, hypnotize him. He's like, here's what you're gonna give me. There's no rebuttal. Here's what you're gonna give me. And every GM's like, yes, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is. But again, what they've done such a good job in this rebuilding process that they had the guys, they had the pieces to trade to make these things happen. I mean, they have just gone out there and just flooded their system with young talent, and they were able. What's crazy is you look at this trade, right, and you compare it to like the Yu Darvish trade, and I think you can definitely say the Padres gave up more to acquire Musgrove than they did Yu Darvish. Darvish comes with a little bit heftier salary and everything, but out of all these pitchers that they have acquired, Clevenger, Darvish, Snell, Musgrove, they've just acquired almost an entire rotation of pitchers. Oh, and by the way, they still have Lamet and Paddock, and then Gore still just chilling there.
Oh my God, I don't understand. I don't understand.
Gore's not even going to make the team. Like
there's no way.
No. So you've got these guys that you've acquired. They didn't really give up a whole lot for Darvish, but I think that was more they took on salary. So that's why that deal wasn't as hefty. Blake Snell, they gave up a top 30 prospect to acquire Blake Snell. So they gave up something for Snell. Clevenger was really, you look at it and it was a lot. It was similar to this trade. I think you could kind of compare the Clevenger deal to the Paddock. I mean, to the Musgrove deal. A lot of players, right? Nothing truly impactful on there.
More major league. I just compare that more to the Cole trade.
Yeah, and a lot of guys, right?
It was a lot of misfits. It seemed like for the Padres.
Yeah.
Which now, especially like the way they've revamped this team even further this year, which is you ask yourself, how can they revamp that team even more? None of those guys that went to the Indians are making this Padres club. So
that's true. I mean, like Austin Hedges, Josh Naylor, and Cal Quantrill don't have any space on the Padres right now. So
right.
It when you have as much talent as the Padres have, you can do stuff like this, and it's not going to hurt your team at all because you're giving up some people who may be contributors, but you just got a number 2 starter or you just got a number 3 starter. Like, I mean, this rotation is now just absolutely loaded, just loaded. And to go along with some of the most exciting hitters in the league, this team's going to be good. Like we talked about their last trade after Snell, have they caught the Dodgers, and then they go out and they do this. It's crazy. I'm really surprised that they went out and acquired Joe Musgrove just because I didn't think they really needed him. But I mean, does Musgrove slot into the number 5 spot? Is he the 5th starter?
Well, I mean, he has to be on a major league team. I mean, right. Yeah. I don't think they're, you just mentioned all these guys. Like he's your number 5 starter for this team. I mean, we're hyping up Joe Musgrove and saying this guy is a number 3, could be a number 2, if everything hits. Like he actually is a good pitcher. So like on a contending team, he's probably not going to be the number 2 pitcher on some really good playoff team, right? So that's number 5. Like we're talking about all the hype that Joe Musgrove brings, right? What he can really do and how good of a pitcher he really is. And he's your number 5. And Jim, like you just mentioned, if a pitcher goes down, It's only Mackenzie Gore that comes in and takes over and fills a spot somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Mackenzie Gore. This is
and then
this
right behind him,
so crazy.
Right behind him, I mean, I guess you still also have Adrian Morejon,
right?
Who's 22,
right?
Already has some major league experience. I don't know if he's still on prospect lists or not, but I mean, he's also good. So yeah, this team's stacked. And I mean, I would think, yeah, it's insane.
And I was just gonna say, and just chime in here too, is like, and the thing is too, like most of these pitchers they acquired aren't just like Reynolds. It's not like it's a 1 year and done. I mean, they have some years of control. Mm-hmm. So, even like next year, Clevenger's going to come back. What the hell? Like, there's going to be so many trades next year too, because the Padres can't fill. I mean, they're going to have to make decisions. They might be trading a Paddock. They might be replenishing their farm even further.
Yeah, I think they end up, I mean, if you're the Padres and next year you have Clevenger back and you still have all these guys, like none of these guys are free agents.
Clevenger, Snell, Darvish.
I think you probably trade someone like, you could probably flip Clevenger for a really nice package. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean they can make the decision. I mean, it depends on who pitches and what this year, or how stock goes up and down or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see what they've done. And I'm with you. Like when the Snell trade happened, I kind of felt like, because there was at the time talks that they're looking at Darvish. I just felt like, Snell was the better package, and they went with them. So when they also did Darvish, like literally that night, I believe, or the next day, I was shocked on that to a degree. It's like, oh wow, they went and got both. So like you're saying, and now on top of that, they also got Joe Musgrove. So I mean, yes, what the Padres are doing, man. I mean, it's just Preller, like almost to perfection, this rebuild. And maybe a lot of it was the timing, the pandemic and everything that helped in his favor. But he's just simply bullied the MLB over the past 7-8 months. Like it just to me is ridiculous what he has done. And kudos to him. But, again, like back to the Pirates side of this. So they get that deal. And again, I know why I was saying 3 prospects, and I'll say it because they got Rodriguez by flipping Lucchesi. So at the time, it was 3 prospects, Bednar and Lucchesi. So then now they go ahead and flip Lucchesi to the Mets. They get Jim. They get the catcher that a lot of people in Pittsburgh media are just dying to have. We have to have a catcher. So we finally get the catcher. So maybe we can
he's like
see
a sort of catcher. He catches like half the time.
Right. But I guess that will satisfy some people's needs. Yeah. So we get the catcher that we have to have. Flip to the Mets. You get Edney Rodriguez. What are your thoughts on this one here?
So at first, when it was coming out that Lucchesi was involved, I was like, okay, that's a major league starting pitcher that's probably going to slot right into our rotation. Honestly, probably be our number 3 starter behind Keller and Tyone. So I was like, all right, well that'll work. I mean, he's someone who can eat up innings for a team that's going to be terrible, right? And he's going to be an actual major league pitcher who you won't want to just rip your eyes out every time he starts. So that's what I was thinking at first. And then all of a sudden the Mets come in as this surprise team. And I mean, I guess if you look at it, the Pirates don't necessarily need Joey Lucchesi. Like he was somebody who I was like, okay, he's just going to replace Musgrove in the rotation. But Endy Rodriguez, I don't know a lot about him. But it seems like he's probably the number 2 piece in this deal. Maybe, him and Cruz kind of up there, kind of tied for like the second best piece here. But young guy, 20 years old, Mets number 15 prospect. Doesn't look like he hits for a lot of power, but more of a hitting for average type guy. His on-base percentage, his on-base skills seem good, but again, we're talking about rookie ball,
right?
And
Dominican
summer league.
Season.
So yeah, I don't really know. I couldn't really talk on him very much. he did make it to the United States last year. So that was good to see. So I would imagine somebody will start off in A ball this coming year.
Yeah.
And see what happens. But the Pirates have no catchers in the organization right now, so he immediately becomes the top catching prospect.
Yeah, and I'll say that to him. I mean, obviously, again, like I'm not, like you said, not as I've known this guy forever. But yeah, looking at him, seeing reports and such, definitely a hit tool. It seems like he's going to hit in the future. The power isn't really there. Got a decent arm. He threw out, I think, 42% of catchers in 2019. So it's like he's athletic, right? And as you mentioned, he's played outfield. He's played, I think, let me go down here to make sure. He's played, catcher first, left, center, and right. Which actually is kind of funny because I did see a comparison, which makes a lot of sense, right? Diamondbacks with Varsho, like the catcher there, he's a touted prospect for the Diamondback system. Came up and he plays catcher and center field because that's a very common trait, right? Your catchers to play also center field. But it just shows to his athleticism and also maybe Rodriguez as well, very athletic. So I guess there's definitely questions if he'll stick behind the plate. I obviously see with him being in the Pirate system, they're going to make every effort to keep him behind, the plate catch.
Right.
If that is his true calling, we'll find out. But I mean, there's some athleticism there. He is very young. He was signed internationally. It's like, I don't hate the player. I don't hate the idea. But to me, I was okay, as mentioned with the Padres trade, when I saw Head involved, right? I hope he's not the headliner. There's a lot of risk. But when I saw Lucchesi there, I actually was really excited about it. And it might sound contradictive of what we said not really a week ago, like 4 days, I guess, because we did it on Thursday. When we talked about the possible Benintendi deal. Like if you're going to trade Musgrove, Benintendi doesn't make sense because you have to flip him, right? And Benintendi has 2 years of control like Musgrove. Like it doesn't match up. Well, the Pirates got a package. I mean, they got a lot of players. Head the headliner, which is on the cusp of the top 100. When you add Lucchesi in there, like, he's probably one that you're going to flip, but I like that. We got prospects and this guy. I feel like, I'm really comfortable with this because I kind of like Lucchesi too. Like he's not outstanding. Like to me, he kind of reminds me of a lot of like Musgrove. I mean, a little bit different type of a pitcher, of course, but something that like there's more to him. I feel like that it can be unlocked. And it's like, how great you're losing Musgrove. This, everyone's going to need arms. This team's in a rebuild. This is like our project. We got in a trade opposed to sign. Like we're going to get him. We're going to slot him in the rotation. We're going to work with him. He's not been a bad pitcher by any means. It's not as if he's been terrible, like right above a 4 ERA for, his career. He slides into the Pirates. They need arms. He does well. And it's like, even if he doesn't draw a lot of interest this year, he's got 4 years of control. Like he's a free agent in 2025. You can flip him next year. You can, you can work with this guy. He can give you the innings you need now. And then you can trade him, in my mind. Okay. I'm not the evaluator, but it's like, in my mind, something better than Rodriguez. That actually was my biggest issue with this trade. Because again, Lucchesi was involved in this. So I was now okay with the Padres deal for the most part. I think my biggest thing was flipping Lucchesi now for Rodriguez. I almost felt like you might get better. We all know arms going to be needed this year, of course, at the deadline. Like if he comes in and he's pitching well, you can go out to any team and say, you need arms right now, here you go. But also he comes with 3 more years of control after this year.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about it in the 5 minutes that it seemed like he was going to be a Pirate.
Shortest Pirate career ever.
He would have been, he would have slotted right into the rotation. And he's actually had some success in the majors. So it's not, out of the realm of possibility to think that he can do that. It wasn't very long ago. He's 27. So definitely not a prospect anymore, but he's pitched basically 2 full seasons in the major leagues now. But I was with you. I was thinking, okay, this is someone who can pitch for maybe a year or two, in our starting rotation, while we suck, but he's someone who can go out there and eat innings. And then potentially, if he goes back to where he was in 2019, he becomes a trade chip, right? So I was kind of thinking along the same lines. But again, I'm fine with this. Like, again, if we're gonna tank, then we don't necessarily need him. I guess you're trading him for Rodriguez now, and who knows if Lucchesi, if he pitches this year and pitches great, and you can trade him for something better, or he pitches this year and he pitches like he did in his very limited time last year, and you can't get anything better for him. So next thing you know, you DFA him, right? So I guess I kind of see the thought process here. You get what you can for him, because it's not like the Pirates necessarily need him right now.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit more on. I would agree with you. I like the trade more when Lucchesi was a Pirate. Like, when Lucchesi was coming to the Pirates, I like the trade a little bit more. So I'm with you there.
Gotcha. So I think that's where I'm at. So maybe to kind of wrap up the trade evaluation, like, as a whole, in that sense. I was worried a bit about the trade when I saw ahead, because I figured he'd be the headline. I mean, why would he be out first? Which has seen that. And then again, like, after the prospect things came out, then it was Lucchesi, and I was like, oh wow, actually I do like this. And then it was like 4 minutes later, there's a third team involved. So you're thinking, oh God, what's happening? And now it's him going to the Mets to get Rodriguez. Listen, overall, what the Pirates do get in this deal and how it went down, I don't hate the trade. I don't hate it by any means. I want to get it out there. I don't hate it. It's risky, but we've been saying it, like, this farm doesn't really have stars. Maybe Brian Hayes can be that. We'll find out. Also jumped up there, becomes the number 15 prospect in baseball by BA. I mean, I would say Brian Hayes and O'Neal Cruz might be the two right now that could potentially give you star power. But this farm is deep. And what this did, this trade last night, is it just made it that much more deeper. So as we're talking about the deal with the Padres, and if we talked up to Padres, how deep they are, like what you're seeing right now is the Pirates farm has gotten very, very deep. It might not be, we don't have the Mackenzie Gores, we don't have the JJ Abrams, but we have plenty of, like, the Hudson Heads right now. Lots of them.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of really good players, but not exceptional on our farm. And right now, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
So,
yeah. And I mean, if you look at it, Brian Reynolds was kind of a player like that. Like, not super hyped, but had a lot of tools. And, hopefully it goes back to the way he was in 2019. But yeah, they're very deep. The system is very deep. Like, you have Brian Hayes up top, as far as the talent goes. Then you got Cruz, you've got Gonzalez, right? So
Priester,
I think those
Boz.
are, yeah. So I think those are your top three if we're talking, hitters, obviously. And then there is a drop, but you've got a lot of guys there in that category that could break out and have tools to do it. And if we're looking at, Swaggerty's getting to the age where he has to basically do it this year. You got Swaggerty, you now have Head, you have Peguero. So yeah, I think they definitely have a lot of talent into the system. Cherington has done a good job of bringing in more talent, for sure. Like, this is now a pretty deep system. I'm curious to see where Head slates in on Pirates top lists. Like, I think he'll be obviously top 10, but he's probably not top 5.
No, I was going to say, actually, I feel like he almost slots in right where he was with the Padres.
Yeah.
Like, he might be our number 8 prospect as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is fair.
He's kind of right around there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the Pirate system has become a pretty deep system over the last 2 years.
Right. So hopefully, I mean, depending on who they get this year, you would imagine it's going to be very, very good. I know a lot of people want Rocker. If it is the case, if it's Rocker, and then if we're tanking again this year, which I mean, if we have like, what is it, like a $44 million payroll right now, like there's not that much talent. We're trying to purge as much as possible. Like I can only imagine we're getting a top 3 pick, in 2021 as well. 2022, sorry, is 21 already. So it's like maybe the star power is coming now. It's being acquired via the draft, hopefully. So you talked about Cherington. Here's where I want to pivot a little bit because here's where I'm fired up on some things today. Last night and now today. I am tired. Tired. And this is probably going to make me turn into, once again, like the NS9, the nutting, and not nutting, but Huntington apologists.
Yes.
Because it's once again, to me, the overcorrection. It's why, like, when I talk about Juju, and I think when people and the fans in Pittsburgh talk about Juju, it's the overcorrection because there's so much hate for him amongst media. Like, this is my overcorrection of Huntington. I don't love Huntington, but it's like I'm sick and tired of Cherington being the face now, and like he's done nothing wrong. Cherington is the angel, the perfect GM for the Pirates. Everything he does is now magic, and it has to pivot to, and Huntington would never do this, and Huntington would never do this, and thank God we have Cherington because Huntington would never do this. And it's like literally everything that Cherington has done. I look at it, give me your opinion on this. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I look at it and say, this is what Huntington would do for the most part. There's some differences, but like in the body of work, maybe 80% of the stuff that Cherington has done, I'd say Neil would have done the same thing.
I think it depends on the mindset. So like Neil wasn't in the mindset of tear this thing down and rebuild it, right?
Right.
Neil was able to establish a window. The Pirates were able to win during that window. Then when the window started closing, he tried, holding that window open a little bit longer. And that's where he failed. So I think it's just kind of, I don't know if it's, and I'm kind of with you. Like it's a little overkill to be like, this is, what a real GM gets when it comes to trading one of their players, because I mean, first off, you mentioned it. Joe Musgrove was in the Garrett Cole trade, so the Pirates.
We'll get to that part after.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know that's also
right.
On my mind.
Okay. So, but I think it just, I don't know if you can compare the two like deal for deal right now, because especially like in the last 5 years or so. Because Huntington wasn't making trades like this. He wasn't gutting the major league team. He was trying to reload it, right?
Right.
And he
wanted to extend that window. I mean, there was still talent on the major league level. He wanted to keep it going.
Yeah. So he failed miserably at extending the window.
And
right?
that's
so
fair.
I think we'll all agree with that. Like he had a window, he tried extending it, and he failed. If Huntington would have said, you know what, window's closing, let's blow it up. Yeah, I think these are exactly the kind of trades that Huntington would have made. So I'm not seeing anything different in these trades than, when Jason Bay was traded or, I had a conversation.
You made some valid points. You made some valid points last night. Speak to him.
Right. And I mean, I'm just going to say, so I had a conversation with DK on Twitter, and he brought up the Jason Bay trade as a massive failure. And yeah, you know what? In hindsight, massive failure, right? Andy LaRoche never developed. Brandon Moss never developed here. Became an all-star after he left here. But Brandon Moss never developed here. Brian Morris, was a bust. So, but at the time of that trade, Andy LaRoche was the headliner. Andy LaRoche was the top, was according to Baseball America, the number 31 prospect in baseball at the time. 31. So I don't know if it's fair to necessarily criticize. Listen, in hindsight, it was terrible, right?
That's Patino territory, by the way.
Right.
Like what
so
Blake Snell got from the Padres. So
in hindsight, awful trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we would have gone out there and gotten Andy LaRoche in this trade, like let's say Andy LaRoche was born 10 years later and he was part of this trade, I mean, that would have been a steal. The Pirates would have gotten number 31st overall pass prospect in baseball for Joe Musgrove. Right?
Same person who just bashed the previous GM and everything will be praising this deal because you're right. You're right.
So
they got the number they got the number 31 prospect, Jim.
Yeah,
amazing. Again, Charrington's done amazing.
Right. And here's the thing: like I like this trade. Like I think it's fair value for what Musgrove was going to bring. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much right on point with what I was expecting him to get back. So I think Charrington did a fine job making this trade. And I think he's making the right move in rebuilding because, you know, that's just kind of what position we're in right now with the talent on the Major League roster.
Right.
But I just don't – you can't evaluate a trade like this right now. Again, these are 19 and 20 – these are 19 and 20-year-old guys. Who knows? All of these players could be busts, and that's a possibility. Like, it's a possibility none of these guys could do anything.
Right. So that's fair. And so a couple of things I want to bring to note of what you just said. You are right. I mean, you can evaluate. I mean, that's what we're doing, but it doesn't close the book on it, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, especially with these guys. And like same thing like when, like you mentioned, the Andy LaRoche came over. Like you can evaluate at that time. You can say, wow, number 31 prospect in baseball, this is great. But then in hindsight, you can look like, wow, that was terrible because he didn't pan out. And that's the same thing. So if you're praising this deal right here, as much as you love Head, Jesus, I'm sorry. As much as you love this deal and such, he can be a 5-tool prospect just as easy as he can be a bust and not be an MLB. You could be looking at this deal the same thing in 10 years from now when Charrington's fired and we bring in whomever, Ryan Alexander becomes a GM. God, that's going to be terrible.
Boy.
But, when Ryan Alexander becomes a GM and Charrington's fired and now you want to spin and say, well, Charrington was trash, and that's what you'll be talking about. This deal could easily be that deal as well. So what you said is correct. The other thing that you said, which is, of course, become like the token word for NS9 now, I feel like, yes, this trade is fine. That's what this trade is. It is fine. It's not terrible. I'm not overly excited. Like, I'm not jumping for the joy that this happened. He didn't fleece the Padres. If anything, I look at the other side and say the Padres did it again. They got Joe Musgrove now, and they're not hurting. Like, they're still in getting Clevenger and Snell and Darvish and Nola and now Musgrove. They're still a top farm system. It boggles me. Mm-hmm. So that's what I look at this more. It's more of the story to me is more of the Padres, how the Padres are able to get Joe Musgrove again for this more than it is the Pirates are able to get all this for Joe Musgrove. But like you mentioned, the value is fair. It is a fine deal. Team that's rebuilding. This farm's now even deeper now. It's fine. Can we now talk about the Cole and Joe Musgrove thing? Because that's the other thing that's on my head.
Go ahead. That's
so
the one. I know.
Sick and tired of now, it's cool and it's fun to make fun of Neil Huntington and anything and everything he did was wrong. Let's keep it 100. Let's keep it fair. Not everything he did was wrong and not everything that Ben Charrington doing is perfect. And there's way more similarities in it too that I find than what's being put out there. The next thing is, how can you tell me, since last night, I'm not gonna say all I've been hearing, but I've been seeing so much of, Charrington did it. He did it. Shows he's great because he got more out of Joe Musgrove than what, Huntington did out of Garrett Cole. I'm sorry. And we had a little talk of this, so we'll give our sides. That I don't understand that equation, that concept. If you are praising that we got a great return for Joe Musgrove, right? And there was nothing, we got nothing for Garrett Cole. Well, that's how you got Joe Musgrove. Joe Musgrove came here because you traded Garrett Cole. And again, two things can be true. I'm not praising the Garrett Cole trade. But what I'm saying is, I don't understand how you can say we got nothing for Garrett Cole and you can praise this deal when the guy's being traded that you got all this talent for was a player that you got for Garrett Cole. So if this is such talent, then clearly you got something from Garrett Cole because Joe Musgrove is one of them. Yes, it's 7:55 and I'm a bit fired up.
You're good. You're good. And so I agree with your premise that I think it's wrong for people to say that the Pirates got more for Joe Musgrove than they did for Garrett Cole. Like, I do think it's possible to get more value for something that was part of a previous trade, right? I think that's, it's possible, right? Even if that person was part of that previous trade. My issue with the statement is I don't think the return's as good as Garrett Cole. And the main reason for that is because Joe Musgrove was part of that, and Joe Musgrove was pretty good.
Clearly a good pitcher. Because if you like this deal, then you think he's good. And if you think he's good, then you think that they got something good for Garrett Cole.
So and who knows? I mean, some of these prospects could come out and be better than Joe Musgrove, right? But odds are Joe Musgrove is more valuable than any of these guys the Pirates got. And I'm not saying that as in, we should just give up on these guys. No, but that's just the way prospects work. More don't pan out than pan out. That's why you have packages where you get 5 prospects like this, because you're really just hoping that you hit on 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah, and it might just be Cruz that you hit on, you know?
Yeah, and no one's expecting that like all these players are going to hit and become major leaguers. That just doesn't happen, right? That's just math. So, so when it comes to this, I just think the statement itself is incorrect. I think the Pirates did get more for Cole than they did for Musgrove, but at the same time, Garrett Cole was a lot better than Joe Musgrove, had way more talent. And so I'm not saying the Garrett Cole trade was good by any means. It was terrible. But we're not comparing the same thing. Like, I'm not going to compare Garrett Cole to Joe Musgrove and say that they're similar, because they're not. Garrett Cole is one of the best pitchers in baseball, whereas Joe Musgrove is a useful guy on a major league team. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm going with that. Similar.
We'll find out. Once they banned all the foreign substances, who's better. But I digress. So again, to make things fair and how 2 things can be true, you are right. I mean, the Garrett Cole trade was underwhelming. I hate the whole comparison of, well, we got nothing for that and we got so much for this, but yet you got so much from that player that was involved, and yet there's also Colin Moran out here, who's still on the team. So you got something for, the Garrett Cole trade. You can't say both things and they both be true. You can't say we got nothing for Garrett Cole and we got so much, because clearly Joe Musgrove was valuable, because this is what you got for him. This was his value. So that's what you got from Garrett Cole, was all this also, right?
Yeah.
Anyways,
Joe Musgrove was a top 100 prospect.
And can't say that about at the time of the. Can't say that about any of these guys.
He wasn't a prospect at the time of the. He wasn't a prospect at the time of the trade, because he played that year. Like, that was his rookie year, his 2017 season.
Right.
But yeah, he was a prospect. I mean, he was a top 100 prospect going into that year. So I just disagree with the actual statement. I think it's still possible. Like I said, I don't disagree with the premise of the statement. I just disagree with the statement.
Right. And I think we just said before too, none of these guys can make the MLB. And now this trade looks awful. And you still got way more from Garrett Cole, that you're saying. Yeah. All right. Well, I got a couple things off my chest. I'm still, Pittsburgh sports media it's one of the reasons why NS9 is here. And, it's just killing me right now again. And even
riles you up.
Yeah. And there was another statement out there too, how, wow, the people evaluate Joe Musgrove the same as Yu Darvish, because, we got the same pattern. And it's like, again, no, like, Joe Musgrove was $4 million this year, and Yu Darvish like 22-some million. Like, money's a factor too. Right. Like, no, Joe Musgrove is not in the same stratosphere as Yu Darvish. Let's get that clear as well. Money's an issue. Money's the reason why Yu Darvish didn't get that much in return. Although that was still a fleece deal. All right. So I think I'm a little more calm. I've got it off my chest a bit. I can now go to Key West, relax and chill
Go to
for a
Key
week.
West, relax, have fun. We also have some breaking news that literally just happened.
Wait,
looks
right now?
like literally just happened.
What's
Looks like Jared Porter's final transaction with the Mets was acquiring Joey Lucchesi. He just got fired this morning.
So that was, what was it, 31 days?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw what was happening last night. I was wondering what was going to happen today, and I guess that answers it. So he's donezo.
So acquiring Joey Lucchesi is his lasting legacy.
Wow. How about that? Could have been you, Ben Charrington. You could have kept him in. Oh, wow. Yeah. That's just awful what you're hearing about that, too.
Yeah.
Why are people such assholes?
I don't know.
Man.
Yeah. Don't send pictures of your junk to women unsolicited. Just bad move.
People chill. I don't know. There's one thing about shooting your shot too, but like, come on.
Right.
Man, why do guys have to be? I don't know. Anyways, we'll move forward.
Hopefully
the Padres organization. Fingers crossed.
Hopefully he was at least using Manscaped.
Oh God, Joe.
Where with code NS9 Live.
Code NS9. Go get yourself some Manscaped. 20% off. And keep that to yourself. And don't show everyone else. Don't be like, hey, check out what I did with Manscaped today. Look what I just got.
Yeah. No, keep that private.
Right. Only if people want it. Don't be going to people's DMs. Don't be texting people. Only if they ask. All right. I think we can end with that. Anything else you wanted to say? Get off your chest, Jim?
Nah, I think I'm good.
You good?
Yeah, it was fun watching Joe Musgrove here. I enjoyed him.
Yeah.
He was a talented pitcher. So just to kind of give him a parting shot here, he was definitely the most consistent, like out of all of our guys over the past few years. Someone you could rely on to go out there and pitch, 6 to 7 innings pretty much every time he went out. So he that's where his value is. He's a good major league pitcher. So good luck to him in San Diego.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for doing that. I think we lose sight of doing that as well. That's why it was like 2 hours later, I was like, I should post something about Joe Musgrove, and I did because it's the right move. But man, he was a good dude. He's definitely. Yeah. He seems like he's an actual awesome guy,
Right.
And right.
He gets to go home now.
I love
going
his
home
attitude.
to San Diego.
How can you not be happy for him? Like, I'm sure he seemed as if he liked Pittsburgh. He was one of those guys that really embraced the city. He was part of it. The city, for the most part, to what it can do, embraced him to the level. He had that attitude. But yeah, like right now he's going home to San Diego at a time where I don't think the Padres have ever been as hyped or as good as they are. Like, imagine going back to your hometown. And not only you just going back to your hometown, but this is the town that's getting all the hype right now. I mean, it's San Diego Padres. No one can stop talking about them. How good they are. And you have a chance now to not only be home. And San Diego is glorious, by the way. Like, you're also in San Diego.
Yeah.
But, you really have a chance to compete for a championship over – the next 2 years as he's under control for. So, yeah, I'm happy for him.
Yeah, same here. I say, seemed like a good dude. He was always, he was kind of the first person to welcome Shelton, and I remember all the off-season videos and stuff that were on social media. So yeah, he seemed like a good dude. Seemed like he enjoyed Pittsburgh, and couldn't be happier for him. It's got to be exciting for him to go back to San Diego, and he'll be on a team that will be competing for a World Series this year.
And even more reason for us to watch the Padres. That's what we are.
More reason for us to watch the Padres.
We're only doing it to give you Joe Musgrove updates this year. That's all. That's the only reason why we're, nothing else, no other reason, just to give you the Joe Musgrove updates you desire.
There we go.
All right. Well, we're out of here. With that said, we likely won't have a show unless something happens and you and Tyler break down a podcast. But if not, then of course we'll be back next week. We'll see y'all then. Bye-bye.
See ya.